Today we have a couple of notable performances to go over from yesterday's spring training game. We also have a roster move to talk about, another Scott Harris waiver claim, and the corresponding move to go along with it. And then we will player preview Beau Brieske, all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Friday, March 1st, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can join today and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Just visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Happy Friday. Happy March 1st. What a day. What a glorious day in the city of Detroit or wherever you are listening from. The Detroit Tigers play regular season baseball in this month. We are in March, baby. Almost just dropped my baseball, but I caught it because I'm like that. Over the weekend, the Tigers play a few spring training games. We'll certainly go over all of those on Monday's show, talk about any, news and notes out of those. Today, we are going to discuss the notable performances of the 2-5 loss to the Boston Red Sox from yesterday's game. We will also talk about the newest Scott Harris waiver claim, Buddy Kennedy, the newest member of the Detroit Tigers 40-man roster, and that obviously being paired with the corresponding move of Andre Lipsius being DFA'd. We'll talk about both of those things. And then we will player preview Beau Brieske, talk about his 2024 campaign and probably beyond as well. All right. So the Tigers lose 2-5 at the hands of the Boston Red Sox on Thursday afternoon. The two biggest storylines, or, I keep saying notable, and I was trying to think of a different phrase besides notable performance because I've said that about 50 times in 3 minutes. But the two biggest storylines of this game, but they're not like big, like it's the 5th or 6th spring training game. It's not like huge, but the talking points from this game. There you go. That sounds good. Reese Olsen and Wilmer Flores. We're going to kind of sandwich them. So we'll start with Reese Olsen here and then end with Flores. Olsen goes 2 innings, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts. This is a step in the right direction. Again, we're really splitting hairs, and I want to remind everybody with all of these spring conversations, there's a reason they only take 5 to 10 minutes to start every show to go down the spring training game from the previous day. It's because it's spring training, and you shouldn't take too much out of all of these performances. Reese Olsen had a stinker in his first spring training performance, which was, it kind of sucked optically that was the first spring training game for the Detroit Tigers this year. But this one, still 2 earned runs in 2 innings isn't incredible. But the biggest thing, got the strikeouts, didn't have very many, if any, if I'm remembering right. Strikeouts in his first outing, had 3 in this one, had no walks in this one, had a few in his first one. So step in the right direction. A lot of people said that we didn't even have StatCast for this game. We had nothing, goodness. I just would love to actually watch baseball when it's being played. That'd be a super cool thing in 2024 at the major league level, but apparently that's too much to ask for. Apparently, the stuff was good. The biggest thing I'm looking for out of Olsen this year is just the fastball sinker thing he's got going on. I just want to see an improvement in the effectiveness of that pitch and the results that come from that pitch. We all know that the slider that he has is absolutely disgusting, and it's one of the best sliders I've seen on a young arm. And then his changeup, really filthy when commanded well. We know that the secondary stuff is there in a big way. The biggest thing is just going to be finding effectiveness from his fastball. And we talked about that a lot last year. And that's the thing that I am looking for the rest of spring as well. And, there was a report that he got a couple of strikeouts, at least one, off of the sinker that he threw. It's not too much of a swing and miss pitch traditionally, which is another reason why I have my eye on it. And I'm just looking to see if it's just a fastball that moves a lot, if it's a true sinker. And really, I don't care what it's called. I just want it to be a swing and miss possibility pitch, which he struggled with, especially early on last season. So hopefully that can be something that he can work on here, or he's probably been working on it all winter, but continue to work on in the spring. Offensively, I think Malloy gets another hit in this one. Christian Santana gets an appearance. I'm a big fan of Christian Santana. That's a guy that loves to walk right there. Dylan Dingler played. He was the DH, did not catch, but did play in this game. What else? I think that's pretty much it. I mean, Kreidler with a hit in this game, RBI and a walk. The biggest thing that jumped out at me on the offensive side of the ball here wasn't even really any result. I mean, they only scored 2 runs. There weren't a ton of starters in this game, if any. But Akil Baddoo has been playing a lot so far this spring, and that really has kind of stood out to me. He's been playing leadoff as well a lot. They played him in center in this game. I think Akil Baddoo is going to get a boatload of playing time the rest of the way for spring training, and I think that that's because they need to make a decision on him. He is one of the biggest, looming decisions on the roster. Is Baddoo going to be on the opening day roster or not, with the, because he has options available. So they can send him down and not put him on waivers and just have him kind of waiting in AAA. So I think that him getting a lot of playing time makes a lot of sense. I expect him to, it wouldn't surprise me if he led the team in plate appearances, to be honest, in spring training, at least in the first 3 weeks here. Maybe the starters get a lot more there in that last week before the regular season. But I expect to see that trend continue, is I guess my biggest point. But I expect Malloy to get a lot of playing time. I expect Kreidler to get a lot of playing time. And I also expect Colt Keith to get a boatload of playing time. Just because those are guys that are either just on the outside or right on the bubble, or like in Keith's case, right? Keith's case, some alliteration there. He's a guy who you just want to be as ready as possible on opening day. So it's again, we're looking at playing time in spring. We're going to take everything here with a grain of salt, but I think that, results for them matter maybe a little bit more than some other players on the team for those 4 guys. Let's talk about Wilmer Flores, who was the biggest storyline to come out of Thursday, the talk of the town. He goes 2 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, no walks, and 3 strikeouts. Was absolutely phenomenal. Hit 99 miles an hour multiple times, and apparently one of them was 99.9. Whoa. Whoa. Mr. Flores. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Music starts playing, man. That's really that's a fast pitch. So Flores has had a pretty fascinating career. He's a guy that was a domestic undrafted, meaning that he, plenty of guys don't go through the draft and are international signings, obviously, right? A lot of players in today's day and age take that route, but he was in the draft pool. He was part of the draft and was not drafted. You don't see too many of those, but it was also the 2020 season where there's only 5 rounds. So if it was a full 20-round draft, then maybe things would have been a little different for him. But regardless, he was an undrafted signee and pickup for the Detroit Tigers, and 2 years ago had a phenomenal season. A lot of hype started surrounding him. The long hair, right? He was flipping his hair after strikeouts and whatnot. But he was really, really good in high single A, and then he got called up to Erie and wasn't as dominant, but after a few starts, it really translated and really clicked for him. And last year took a little bit of a step back. And when you look at him post-draft, he was throwing mid-90s. He was throwing 94, 95-ish miles an hour, right? Good, solid fastball. It's one of the reasons why he dominated high single A. He just blew it past people, right? It wasn't even really pitching too much, just was throwing, and these guys couldn't catch up with it down in the lower levels of the minors. Last year was throwing like 92, 93, and was working a lot more on the secondary. Was trying to focus on other areas, was really trying to change his approach almost entirely. Was making a ton of adjustments, and they weren't really working. He's looking for a changeup that's like major league effective. But within looking and paying so much attention to the other stuff, he lost the bread and butter, which was the fastball. Not lost, just wasn't utilizing the fastball how he did when he was younger. And so this year, it sounds like there's been a few of the beat writers have already kind of covered it and talked about it a little bit. Sounds like he's going back to, again, allow me to reintroduce myself type of thing. And he's just going back to the well and going, I can throw really hard. Let me just try that again. And, if it leads him to being a reliever at the major league level instead of a starter, which is what I feel like the first, those adjustments were kind of made to counter, then so be it. It's still a major league career. Get on the horse, young fella, right? Like when he was younger, I thought it was more of a reliever profile anyway, because he has two pitches that are pretty clearly better than all of his other pitches on his repertoire. But last year, I was like, oh, well, if it works, he could be a starter, but I don't know if it's going to work. Like he just, he's around a 4 ERA at points last season down in the minors. And now this year he's in spring training pumping a hundo. So kind of exciting. We'll see where it takes us. He now has, I think, really, again, kind of said, hey, don't forget about me. And I'm really fascinated to see how he's going to look the rest of the spring. And then how quickly, if he is looking good down in the minors this year, how quickly they put him in the Detroit Tigers bullpen if he's just going back to, 2022 form and hitting 100 miles an hour. So very, very nicely done, Wilmer Flores, and has quickly, in one outing, kind of become, an afterthought of a story to one of the bigger storylines that we're going to be talking about here probably as spring training goes along. So good for him, man. Good for him. Love when players make adjustments and kind of reassert themselves and force those difficult conversations. So we'll see. I don't think he's going to make the opening day roster or anything, but I do think that, if he looks this good down in the minors, it could be somewhat of a difficult conversation by the end of April or May even. All right. Okay, let's move on. We're past due here for a break, and then we will talk about the newest addition to the Tigers 40-man roster, the corresponding move with it, and then we'll player preview Beau Brieske. We'll do all of that right after this. Get buckets with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back on Monday. I almost said tomorrow. We'll be back on Monday recapping the weekend and all the news and notes that come out of Tiger Town over the first weekend of March. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. All righty. So we talked about Wilmer Flores, kind of took up most of the conversation there in the first part, but we talked about the spring training game from yesterday. Let's talk about the newest addition to the Detroit Tigers 40-man roster. Buddy Kennedy claimed on waivers on Thursday, and to make room for him on the 40-man roster, Andre Lipsius was designated for assignment. Absolutely crushing blow to yours truly. I'm a big fan of Andre Lipsius, a guy that was, I believe, a third-round pick, went to Tennessee, and, early on he was fine. And then kind of in that, post-COVID is when he really started just drawing a boatload of walks. And this organization under the Avila era was not, how quickly we forget, was not the I'm going to go target everybody that draws walks type of organization that Scott Harris runs. And so I absolutely loved Andre Lipsius down, and he was crushing the ball for Erie, and he got called up to Toledo over the last couple of seasons and got his opportunity. Did not, play poorly at the major league level. Had an average over 270. The big question with him for a while has been A, defense, B, power at the plate. He's proven that he has a good eye. He's proven that he doesn't chase out of the strike zone too much. He's proven that he can draw walks, all things that I absolutely love. There's just been a lot of inconsistency when it comes to power. It's something that I'm sure he's been working on and grinding on for a while. And I still have some hope that he's able to find that. The head scratching part of this to me was the fact that Andre Lipsius has minor league options available to him. Like, this isn't a guy that if you send him down to the minors this year, he'd have to be put on waivers or anything. And with the amount of waiver claims this team has been making, it just felt like, you could have just kept doing the thing you've been doing with, DFAing guys and claiming guys and DFAing the same people and claiming the same people. So branching out from that, and DFAing Andre Lipsius. Now, there's no guarantee that he's gone, right? Lipsius will be on waivers for a couple of days, and then if he clears, then he stays in the organization, and the Tiger. Well, he has the ability to stay in the organization, I should say, and the Tigers could hold on to him. So maybe it's something where the front office believes that he's the guy that can clear waivers, and if they want to hold on to everybody, Lipsius included, that he was the guy they picked. Maybe they don't. Maybe they don't see a future of him on the roster. I mean, he wasn't going to make the major league roster this year. I don't think that's a difficult conversation to have with the fan base. I think we were all pretty understanding of that. But did enough. I felt like in his September call up last year to at least make it through the winter, which I guess he did. But was not the guy that I expected them to DFA to make room for somebody else. I struggled defensively, did not grade out very well defensively, also not a very fast runner. And that transitions us into Buddy Kennedy, the newest member of the Detroit Tigers, who, to no surprise to anybody, draws a boatload of walks. You want to talk about OBP. Lipsius, I think his career high OBP down in the minors for any level was about 390. Kind of approaching 400. Kennedy's across 6 years of minor league baseball, his OBP total in those 6 seasons is 380. He's got a lot of years in the 400s here. He was drafted straight out of high school in 2017. Did play in 10 games for the Arizona Diamondbacks just this past season. The thing with him is that he has a few more tools, and you're adding some speed. He's very high up there in sprint speed. I guess the assumption is that maybe he can be a better defender as well. I don't know that to be a fact. Kennedy has played infield. He's played outfield. So we will see what his future holds. I mean, again, I'll say this, just like I've said for every single waiver claim we've made in the last 6 months, there's a very real chance that Buddy Kennedy is just also DFA'd in the next week or two, right? And there's another waiver claim that's made, and they try to keep all of these guys in the organization. So, a new waiver claim. No surprise to anybody. He draws a boatload of walks, but he does provide that the speed. And last season, if you want to talk about like what he did in the minors in AAA between two different organizations, Oakland and Arizona, had a 308 average and an 887 OPS. Also isn't a guy that has had a ton of slug. So again, similar to Lipsius, not a ton of slug down in the minor leagues. Similar player. I would call it, I don't even know if lateral is the right term for it. Just kind of, again, we know that Scott Harris is going to continue to just overturn the bottom part of this 40-man roster constantly. And if he can clear guys through waivers, then it's just going to be added to the organizational depth. So wishing Lipsius nothing but the best. Like I said, became a huge fan of his over the last few seasons, whether it's with the Tigers organization or if he gets claimed, which because he has options, I don't think is out of the realm of possibility. We'll see what happens. All right. Let's talk about Beau Brieske, the player preview for the day. We'll do all of that right after this. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. So we are talking about Beau Brieske today. He will be the player preview. Last year, Beau Brieske in 25 games played had 35 innings pitched, a 3.60 ERA, a 7.97 K per nine, a 3.09 walk per nine. That was a 20.4% K rate and a 7.9% walk rate. So didn't technically pitch enough games to qualify, for like league leading stats and whatnot. But for whatever it's worth to you, did avoid hard contact really, really well. Did not strike out too many hitters. We'll talk about that. But did move to the bullpen almost exclusively, opened a few games and what have you, but was viewed at much more as a reliever last season, and also did not pitch in the first half of the season. I don't think he made a single appearance pre-All-Star break, if I remember correctly there. I think he debuted in July. So glad that he's healthy, glad that he's back. Beau Brieske has had a very fascinating career up to this point. Was kind of a never you mind type of prospect 2 years ago, at the beginning of 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago now. Jeez, time really flies. But had a really big breakout year in the minors 2 years ago. Not a whole lot went right in the organization in 2022. Beau Brieske, one of those things, really took a big step forward. Won Tigers minor league pitcher of the year, if I'm remembering correctly. I think that's why we had him on the show, to kind of talk to him about that season and adjustments that he made. Really, really solid changeup. And, when he was a starter, the fastball was kind of a 93, 94 miles an hour type of pitch, and he was kind of relying on the big dimensions of Comerica Park a lot, got hit around a lot, got hit hard as well. Wasn't a fantastic season for him. He had a 4.19 ERA as a rookie. That's not like some train wreck of a year, but a lot of the peripherals and underlying metrics, like didn't get strikeouts, didn't keep runners off the bases, did get hit really hard consistently, kept the ball was in the air a lot. Again, thank you Comerica Park to some of those. But last year as a reliever, I think really kind of reinvented himself. And for a guy that, 2 years ago we were talking about, does he fit into the rotation? Is he kind of be like a swing man, right? Like the Tyler Alexanders of the world. What kind of role is he really going to fulfill here? I think now I am comfortable enough to say, and I don't know if confidence the right word, because I don't know what the organization is thinking, but I would leave him in the bullpen and you're just a reliever now, because he really, really impressed me last season. That fastball velo went up 2 or 3 miles an hour, was pumping 96, 97 pretty consistently with his fastball. The changeup was a high 80s mile an hour pitch and continued its really good effectiveness that it had, obviously, when he was a starter as well. Still needs to work on the swing and miss stuff, still needs to work on the strikeouts. Was in the bottom third of the league when it comes to strikeout rate, even lower when it comes to whiff rate. But a few things that really stood out to me besides, obviously what we've been talking about, but didn't get hit very hard, right? Mentioned that a little bit earlier as well. A few of the things that really stood out to me, though, was one was how he wasn't walking people early on in the season and early on in his season. Obviously, again, he didn't pitch in the first half of the year. But in the first 2 months, so July and August combined, he walked 4 batters total, and he only walked 1 in the month of July. And again, that's like half of a month, kind of, right? It was post All-Star break there, but only had 1 walk. And for the first 4 to 6 weeks that he came back from injury, he was in the 95th or 98th percentile in baseball in fewest walks allowed. And I was like, dang, he's really just pounding the strike zone, keeping the ERA low as well. And then September, on the flip side, he walked 7 batters just in the month of September alone. And that was only in 7 games. So for a guy that again, 5 walks in July and August combined, and then 7 in the month of September alone, also had the highest OPS against in the month of September. So would like to see those low walk numbers, obviously, come back into fruition. But that's something that I was really impressed with early on, and that I think he has the ability to replicate and be a lot more similar to that. I mean, coming off from an injury like that, maybe it's just a little bit of fatigue, to be honest with you, as the season rolls along. So I'm expecting and kind of hoping for him to buckle down on that and be a guy that can fill the strike zone consistently. The biggest thing with Beau Brieske, and that's why this is kind of just like a one segment, a little bit more than one segment part of the show, is because there's really just one glaring overlying thing that we've been talking about with Brieske his entire major league career on this show. And if you're a longtime listener, you know what I'm about to say. And it's going to be the talking point until proven otherwise. And that's, can he get a legitimate horizontal moving pitch? The fastball, now that he's been moved to the bullpen, is legit. It has decent enough spin, good enough movement, and really good velocity now. It's a legitimate pitch, okay? The changeup we've been talking about since he was in Double-A. Really, really solid pitch, really good. You need a horizontal pitch. you got to have something that moves east to west. And so he has a slider. And last year, this is something that I've actually been meaning to talk about for a while, so I'm glad it came up. Last year, his slider had a 235 batting average against it, which is not bad. The thing is, it only had 13 batted ball events against it the entire year. You can't contribute to the batting average against if you're not offering at the pitch. So he threw 102 sliders last year and only had 13 batted ball events against, 235 batting average against that pitch. So I that is something, again, I've been meaning to talk about for a while, because I've had a few people where I've said, oh, I don't like this pitch, or I really like this pitch, and the numbers maybe say the opposite. That is something you have to pay attention to, how many times that pitch is actually swung at and offered at, right? So with his slider, it needs to be better. I was trying to find a different way to say it. I don't think there really is. Beau Brieske needs to develop a solid slider, and I think that his game will continue to kind of skyrocket and maybe even take off into this huge next leap forward caliber of level. He's a pitcher that against righties, he throws his fastball, he throws his sinker, and then he obviously throws his slider as a righty. Against lefties, he throws his fastball and his changeup, and that's kind of it. He doesn't throw the sinker, he doesn't throw the slider. Would it shock you to know that the pitch that he throws the platoon that he throws the changeup to, he is better than? He is a reverse split guy and has been his entire major league career. He does better against lefties than righties. Did as a starter, did as a reliever. Okay? That is because his changeup is a really good pitch. And his fastball, now out of the bullpen, also, again, a solid pitch. Even though he's only becomes a 2-pitch pitcher. It's going to be the fastball or the changeup. He's much better against lefties than righties. Now, he doesn't never throw the changeup to righties. It's just significantly less. And righties tend to do a little bit better against it, which is why he really needs a good slider. Okay, so I think that would go a long way, because if you divide that in half and you just kind of throw changeups out of the righty mix, then you're talking about, hey, what do I throw to righties here? My fastball or my sinker? Well, that's not very deceiving. You need to have some sort of non-fastball pitch that you can rely on against right-handed hitters. And that is the biggest thing that we've been talking about, again, with Brieske since he was a starter, since he was in the minors. And now, obviously, coming up again. I'm really, really optimistic about Beau Brieske. I'm a huge fan of his. I think that he could be a really solid reliever for this baseball team for the foreseeable future. I think, I don't want to say, I don't like saying ever. Wow, that sentence got away from me. I don't ever like saying that everything in terms of the success of a player is going to come down to one specific thing and one specific thing only, right? There's a lot of adjustments you can make. There's a lot of stuff that you can do to improve at all times. Brieske's like the closest I'll get to that. effective slider, completely different outlook on the future. And again, he had a 3.6 ERA and was solid last year out of the bullpen. Like, I'm not saying that if he doesn't do it and the slider looks the same as it did last year, that this dude's just going to be a garbage can. Like, no, he's established that he can be, varying levels of success, but somewhat an effective reliever, middle reliever for this team going forward, regardless of how that third pitch develops. But that is going to be a very, very big deal to me. All right. I'm expecting him to be get some more higher leverage situations this year, I think. Fully healthy season. Really excited about that. But a guy that, again, has been a reverse split type of guy at the major league level. I think they like that. I think that that's something that they, you don't talk about it at parties, right? I think they want to keep that kind of on the hush hush. So I apologize about that. But I'm pretty bullish on him. I think that he, when we talk to him, constantly making adjustments, a guy that loves to, tinker with pitches and try to improve on stuff. Really just a baseball guy through and through. And so I'm pretty optimistic on him. It's all going to come down to again, I don't like saying everything comes down to one thing, but it's more to do because I like everything else he throws. Like, I don't think he needs to get his fastball to be that much better. I don't think he needs his changeup to be that much better. Thanks for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will be back tomorrow. All right. No, we're not. That's a lie. We'll be back on Monday. Okay. I really hope that you can't hear this. If I seemed off or like I was flustered this episode, my neighbor could not be playing a bass louder at the present moment. If you can hear it, I apologize. I'll try to do my best in post edit here to get rid of it if you can. I think we're good though. Good enough, Mike. All right. I will catch y'all on a Monday. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. I'll catch y'all then, baby. Go Tigers.